Okay, I thought I'll wait for some time, but I think it's time to start now. So, hello everyone, and thank you for joining in. A very famous person once said, education gives us a profound understanding that we are tied together as citizens of the global community and that our challenges are interconnected. And I truly believe so. And this is what this 100 Web Day session is about, preparing our youth for today's globalized world. And I'm going to talk about how can children be taught about globalization, what age to start at, what is global literacy, and what schools and parents can do to encourage global education. And how should children collaborate to achieve common goals? So let me start by quickly introducing myself. I'm Kopal Maheshwari and the founder of Little Einsteins Preschool. Little Einsteins Preschool is known for its unique pedagogy and is present in 6 countries. Yes, we are now in Philippines as well, with 63 centers. Our pedagogy is inspired by Dr. Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence and is focused on developing our children as lifelong learners with 21st century skills and also as global citizens. We at Little Einsteins focus on not just reading readiness and writing preparedness, but also on critical and creative thinking using STEAM and simple coding exercises to help prepare our youth for the future. So, well, that was just a quick brief about Little Einsteins. And now I will be talking more about Little Einsteins later when I'm discussing as to how we go ahead and make our youth as global citizens. But let me just come back to the topic and probably discuss more about why do we need global citizens in the world, or why should we have global literacy in the world? Well, we are living in a globalized world, more connected to each other than ever before. And this brings a whole set of challenges and also opportunities for us. We need to be globalized in our approach in order to tackle the challenges that our world face, and also to collaborate on a global scale, because that is what will help us make sure that we tackle these challenges in every culture and in every country. And if you see the problems that the future generations are going to inherit, it is important that today's education helps prepare the youth for tomorrow's world. In order to do this, we need to help children build a global mindset that gives them the creativity, knowledge, and skills, and allow them to work collaboratively across the globe on the world's biggest challenges. And I will be talking more about what these challenges are, but I'm sure most of you know about the SDGs. Well, there have been phenomenal advances in information and communication technologies, or the ICTs that we say. And people are so connected now and interact with others around the world, anywhere, anytime. Well, it's a good thing. And this has contributed to an intensified perception as well, that people are really interconnected and living beyond local perimeters. But this also has increased transnational migration, and it is making local communities more heterogeneous. And that is why there is always this need to learn how to live together. I mean, we all saw what happened in Australia and Sri Lanka, and that was very unfortunate. But such tensions and conflicts among populations call for cooperation and collective action at both global as well as local levels. So actions undertaken in some parts of the planet can actually affect the well-being and prosperity of millions in another part. And that is why the pursuit of sustainable peace and development requires all of us to show empathy, tolerance, and have solidarity, and accept a sense of belonging to a community or a common humanity, as I would say. And that is why it's important to have global literacy. So what do we actually need? We need global education that enables people to understand the links between their own lives and those of people throughout the world. It helps us increase understanding of the economic, cultural, political, environmental influences which shape our lives, and also develop the skills and attributes and values maybe, which enable people to work together and to bring about change and take control of our lives. We should also be able to work towards achieving a more just and sustainable world in which power and resources are shared equally. And that is very important because the future generations are going to be facing this very challenge. So we have an idea of what we want, but how can we transform our vision into practice? Well, the answer lies in an education that brings about changes and personal transformation through actions and practices. And we at Little Einsteins actually realized that we can transform vision into practices by using these 3 pillars, I can say. And so you see, we consider respect for diversity as one pillar, solidarity as the other, and shared sense of humanity as the 3rd pillar. Well, it is important that we treat these 3 as pillars because this is what imbibes in our youth to go ahead and be globally literate. And through an education like this, which values non-discrimination, respect for diversity, and solidarity for humanity, or maybe an education which focuses on international understanding and an education which is for sustainable development that advocates a transformative and holistic pedagogy, can an answer be found for global literacy. So global citizenship education is more associated with global challenges related to peace and conflict and education for sustainable development. And a good thing is that it also provides conceptual antidotes to extremism, like violent extremism. So what do we do at Little Einsteins for global education? Well, I can say it has 3 conceptual dimensions, and we've broken it down into like cognitive. The cognitive dimension is concerned with the learner's acquisition of knowledge, understanding, and critical thinking. Then we also have another one which is called socio-emotional, wherein we relate to the sense of belonging to a common humanity, sharing values and responsibility, and of course empathy and respect for differences and diversity. Thank you so much, Vikraj. Well, the next one is of course behavioral, and the behavioral dimension, it expects us to act responsibly at a local, national, and global level for a more peaceful and sustainable world. Well, we have 3 levels, as and where we engage the young learners in internationalism. And what we do is we break it down into simple activities that we can do with our toddlers. So at level 1, we talk about things like food, festivals, and flags of different nations. And this is what most of the schools also do, but it doesn't limit global literacy to that. There is more that we can all do. So we have a level 2, which is basically for our nursery and junior kindergarten ages. And in that, we delve deeper into nations, where we talk about the history and the culture of that country. And then we have level 3, which is more immersion into the culture, where we talk more in detail and interact with students and people from those nations. And that is something which actually gives them the right insight of how to be global citizens. And I feel the best way to approach any topic is, in terms of global education, is to take it as a personal, a local, and a global example. And what I have here is this chart, which, let me check if it is visible. Okay. I think this should be visible now. Yes, so this is the chart that we refer to when we approach any topic. So we have a personal or a cultural reference for them to discuss a topic. Then we do cross-cultural studies, wherein we think of a topic and think of how it is done in different cultures. Then we have integration of international materials. So we figure out what other countries are doing for those issues. And then, of course, is the global issues and the problems of the global issues. So for any topic, if you have a personal, a cross-cultural, or on an international level, we are able to go ahead and integrate it. What are the outcomes, basically, of the process that we follow? Well, our cognitive, under the 3 pieces that I spoke about, which is cognitive, socio-emotional, and behavioral. Under the cognitive one, our learners develop skills for critical thinking and analysis. And it's really insightful to see how they look at the global problems and think about solutions, even the toddlers. We have socio-emotional. In that, the key outcomes are that they develop empathy, which is very important nowadays. And they also know how to go ahead and unite teams. They learn about leadership, about how to form into solidarity and respect the differences and diversity of each other. And when we focus on our behavioral the behavioral aspects, well, the outcomes are that the learner is motivated and they are willing to take necessary actions. And that is the most interesting and satisfying piece for us, because we see our young toddlers take actions and do things to help create a sustainable environment, or also to stand up for global issues. So the idea is to generate actions and engagement. And these have to be civic actions to promote a better world and future. Well, some people ask me if preschool is the right age for this. Well, I know what most of them think, that global affairs and challenges, so education is mainly for mature students. But that's not the case. The most challenging dimension to address education is the social-emotional one. And in that dimension, formation of attitudes and values is very important. So information and knowledge can be acquired through classroom learning, but values, belief system, and attitudes are formed through accumulated experiences and socialization processes. And these are acquired through years of developmental process rather than schooling process. So as such, I feel early childhood is the best place to start with global citizenship education. And the early learners acquire the right mindsets for global citizenship or global literacy. Now, as I come towards the almost the last phase, I'm going to talk about how, as parents, teachers, and schools, can you promote global education or develop our youth as global citizens. So there are a lot of things. Of course, I've talked about in theory what all you can do, but in practicality, in terms of, apart from just having these pillars and dimensions to your education system, you can also do a lot of other things. You can engage your children in organizations and create awareness amongst them. Talk about global issues and concerns and seek their opinion. As parents, you can do that, like whenever you come across issues or whenever you're talking to your child, you can seek what they think about global issues. Example is like, I often ask my 11-year-old how he would like to resolve the issues, and he comes up with some crazy ideas, but yes, some of them are doable. So it's always interesting to listen to their perspective. I was also teaching a class of 5-year-olds once, and I asked them how they would like to contribute to the world when they grow up. And this kid came up to me and said he would like to make a windmill that cleans air. So things like that would keep them interested to the challenges of the future. Well, you can also inform them of different organizations or groups that approach the ideas on a global scale. And there are a lot of groups or websites where they can enroll themselves through your parents' permission. And some of them are like Kids Can. This is basically an innovation camp in Manila. There is also an SDG toolkit for young readers where they can know about what are the SDGs, what are the Sustainable Development Goals, and how different children are working towards it. Then there is the Climate Reality Project, which is one of the biggest in terms of helping raise attention for the climate. And there is also something called kidsgoglobal.net, which is again another interesting site to see what children are doing to contribute towards the green environment and also towards the SDGs. Well, I'm sure you can also talk about some stories and make them hear videos of very famous children who have raised their voice and concerns for the SDGs. We all know Greta Thunberg now, and there was Seven Suzuki, who raised her voice when she was just 12 years old. There's, of course, Malala Yousafzai, Adora Switpark, and Shalvi Sakshi. So some of these kids have also spoken at the UN, and they raise their concerns for a better planet. So basically the idea is to give your children a purpose, a mission. We at Little Einsteins work together for a theme, or basically in terms of a week or a month. And what we do is we choose like different SDGs and let parents and kids work together. So for example, we once did on SDG 2, which is basically zero hunger, and we asked our parents and children to come up with solutions to avoid food wastage. And they came up with solutions to avoid food wastage in our canteen as well. A group of mothers even came up with some wonderful recipes of discarded parts of the vegetables and plants, like the peels and the stems. So that was very interesting to see how both parents and children contribute. We also worked on SDG 3, which is basically a mission to ensure that children are aware about ways of good health and well-being. And mindfulness and meditation has now become a part of our curriculum because of that. And we always have like a nutritionist come and introduce design a meal for our canteen and lunch breaks, but the nutritionist comes and also talks to the parents, and especially the toddler moms, on how they can inculcate good health and habits in the young ones. And of course, a favorite everywhere is SDG 13, which is the climate action. It's the most talked about in our fraternity. So we informed our kids about the movement, which started from Sweden. And our kids said, okay, we are also going to take to the street. And here they are. Some of them where they created badges, and they actually went here to the streets and held the signboards. Of course, it's all visible on our Facebook page as well. So a lot of our centers participated to raise their voice and concerns. And there is, of course, Global Youth Service Day, which happens from April 12th to 14th every year, where all the youth between 5 to 25 years of age group, they come together and work for the common good. So it's a very good community where your children can enroll in. And basically, we have to encourage them for an inquiry-based international dimension. So they need to inquire, find out themselves, and then go about it. Well, so those were just some of the topics that you can discuss with your children. And you see a vast difference of how people feel that SDGs are just meant for developing nations. Like, I realized that here in Estonia when I was talking to some of them, where they felt that, oh no, the SDG 4 just here in the Baltics doesn't apply. But they forgot that it is actually quality education that we're talking about for 2030. So to keep yourself updated about what is happening around the world, and let your children also be aware of it. And this is how we can work together as global citizens. Also, the Peace Research Institute in Oslo in 2017 came up with a report that said that one of the most violent years was 2017. And it prolonged the challenge to achieve global peace. Some things which even we as adults find really alarming to believe is that, we know that inequality poses a lot of problems, but Oxfam raised this alarm about unbalanced distribution of wealth, where they mentioned that 82% of growth in global wealth is going to the top 1%. And there are 400 million people in Asia and Pacific regions who live under $2 a day. So there are 500 million people who are undernourished, and 136 million children are out of school. So no person or country can solve these problems alone in a fast globalizing world. And we all have to unite and unite our youth and support each other as true global citizens. Even HundrED is a wonderful community that fosters growth and support, and with wonderful people like Bukraj, who are always willing to collaborate and connect. You see children also join the HundrED organization now as youth ambassadors, and they collaborate for best practices and knowledge sharing. And that is one thing as parents or as schools we can encourage our children to do, is join the HundrED Youth Ambassadors program, so that they are able to find unique ideas to resolve challenges on education and in their own communities and nations as well. Well, that brings me to the end, and I would like to thank HundrED for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share my experiences, and also like to thank all those who joined in. And if you want to know more about Little Einsteins or would like to stay in touch, please feel free to write on my Facebook page or my LinkedIn profile. We also have Little Einsteins as a Facebook page where you can go ahead and leave your messages. So thank you all, and look forward for the next Wednesday web day for a wonderful session. And do remember to tune in. Thank you, and have a great weekend. Bye.